Look at us now, tip to tip.
Ooh, Jesus.
Oh.
Shout out to Morning Kombat.
Do you want a margarita?
Yes!
My God!
Shout out to us, doing what we love. It's time to bang. Oh, yeah, right? It's a little bit of a Friday feeling here. You know what I'm talking about. Ain't got shit to do. Get ready. You're about to get invaded by the best damn combat sports show, period. They used to give us awards for this. Welcome to Morning Kombat Friday, January 10th, 2025. My name is that BBC with that BDE, Brian Campbell. The man next to me will defile your porcelain even mid-show. His name is Washington, D.C.'s own Luke Thomas. And Luke, we are in the throngs of winter here, kicking off the new year. Obviously, we're throwing our cares, our thoughts, our concerns to those battling wildfires in the greater LA area. But how the hell are you doing on the East Coast here this Friday morning?
Yeah, we have, well, I won't say the opposite problem. We don't really have any problems at all like that, but we're still digging ourselves out of snow because the problem is that it snowed BC and then it just stayed cold. It didn't go back to being even remotely warm. So everything is just frozen to the goddamn ground. But you know what? As you indicated, those fires, man,
Damn.
They're horrific. They're horrific and they're tearing through. I know a lot of people think it's because it went through the Palisades, that it's just like well-to-do people, but that's really not the case. It's a lot of people who didn't have a fire insurance policy, people with middle income or even less. Like, it's devastating. So we certainly send all of our well wishes and hope for whatever can be the best going forward.
No doubt about it. Whether you're out of power, or worse, please be safe. We're going to get through this together. We're going to have a great show for you, though, just the same, because guess what, guys? MMA is back this weekend. The UFC is back at the Apex. It's Dern, Ribas, too. It's Fight Night Fever. We're going to get into it with previews and picks. Look at the latest headlines. We got a bit of breaking news in just a second, but also, please tell me about yourself. Like and subscribe, whether you are on Team MK or not. Let's go. Join the team. Join the club of what's going on. Follow us on our YouTube social channels there and our extended work and beyond. And very quickly here, let's bring in the third member of our team. He's from Long Island. His data is from down under. It's Luke Nocita of the Main Card Minute. Luquito Jr., how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good this morning, guys. How are you?
Great, thank you. Very nice MK hat atop your dome.
Thank you.
Right
I got the shirt on too. I'm repping all day.
Wow.
You know,
I love it. I love it. Just don't try to order it from our merch site because we're in transition at the moment. Luke Thomas, I think that's it because we got big things to talk about. You want to get because we started late. I mean, why did we start late? People were like, "Did he building 7 the bathroom?" I mean, what happened, Luke?
It wasn't me. Well, I mean, it wasn't completely me. There was a bunch of updates related to the future of MK that we were going over, and they were all pretty good. So they were, yeah, we got to kind of get to them.
I was doing improv. You're like, hold on, BC, we got to get into the real bit.
I was going to say, BC, I went to the you know, it's January, and so that means that all the donks are at the gym. Now, I don't want to hate on anyone's fitness journey. I think if you're there, God bless you. It's not like my fitness journey is some kind of glorious pursuit of excellence. However, what I would say is a lot of donks. A lot of donks for 9 a.m. Wow.
A lot of $9.99 donks looking to get in shape for a few days. But
just a lot of people ready to injure themselves and or get no training stimulus from doing these exercises in every way possibly wrong. So God bless them. I hope they figure it out.
There it is. All right. Before we get into our topics here, we do have breaking news right off the top. It was reported. There it is. There it is. It was reported by both Forbes, MacLife, and I believe it tips back to originally in Brazil. But here's the deal. March is UFC 313 in Las Vegas, a pay-per-view. And according to these reports, your main event will be Alex Pereira in a heavyweight matchup, non-title, against Alexander Volkov, which brings a lot more questions than we have answers if this is the direction that UFC is going. What about Ankalaev? What's going on here? Luke Thomas, first and foremost, if this is true, your reaction to Poatan Volkov at 313 in Las Vegas.
I mean, listen, okay. So if it is true, the best explanation for why it is true is that in whatever time they wanted to make the fight, Ankalaev would not be ready as a practicing Muslim because of Ramadan. And of course, you could fight during Ramadan, but it drains you due to the nature of the fasting. Okay, fine. So if they can't get Poatan active in that first or second, well, is 313? When is that again? BC
March 8th. March 8th.
Yeah, so that would be first quarter, right? So they wanted him first quarter, and Ankalaev's not available due to those reasons. Then I understand, and it makes sense to try and find some alternative, because BC, you would probably agree you could give a title shot to somebody else down the line at 205, but that would really mess things up for Ankalaev. He would still get a title shot, but the whole point is he's supposed to be the guy to challenge Poatan next. That's kind of the sort of implied assumption. So why not just go up to heavyweight and find someone who he could fight? And people are like, oh, just have him fight Tom Aspinall right away. I keep trying to explain this to people. What is the point of booking Poatan in a fight he is almost guaranteed to lose? It makes no fucking sense. This one, as a fight itself, BC, I don't mind. I think Volkov is obviously going to do what? He's probably going to stand with Poatan. And so who knows? I think that is a much more interesting fight. I'm just trying to point out here, BC, there's been a few times that they could have made a Poatan Ankalaev fight, and they decided to have like Ankalaev wait or fight a Rakic or something else, and we just didn't get it. And they just keep fucking delaying it. So if the answer is Ramadan for a reason why we can't get it, okay, then it is what it is. But I get this weird feeling that like they're trying to put it off, or they don't seem in any kind of a hurry to make Poatan versus Ankalaev. Read into that what you will.
Yeah, we need explanations. We're certainly speculating about the potential of Ramadan and the relation to Ankalaev. It would go back to that cryptic tweet in the last month from Pereira saying it won't be Ankalaev next, but no other further information. Obviously, this seems to be they're maybe hustling a bit to get a suitable main event. And, you know, if Ankalaev, let's say, wasn't available, is there another contender in line that's screaming, hey, I need this now? Well, no. Poatan, even in the short term as light heavyweight champion, is running through people. So, Luke, I kind of agree with you. If it's got to happen, I'm heavily intrigued by the fight. A lot of us are, especially if Poatan would go in there against someone who largely doesn't wrestle, and let's say he could get you a big spectacular victory. All that would do is make you want to see him against, in theory, the winner of Aspinall versus Jones. I still strongly believe that does happen this year, even with this Joe Rogan 30 million. Oh, I didn't mean it. Dana called me. It's not true thing that's going on. So we'll have to wait and see, but it is interesting. We did used to see Anderson Silva, another great Brazilian star, go up in weight once in a while when the UFC needed him to, right? Forrest Griffin, James Irvin. We've seen it a few different times for whatever reason. So it's an interesting development, to say the least. And maybe it opens up the door for Poatan to make a quicker move to heavyweight than maybe he would have. I mean, how many people are there left for him to fight at 205? That's the big question. But right. Luke, what is this a reward to Aspinall, who most of us thought he beat Cyril Gane in that last fight? And Dana White seemed to afterwards console him and, you know, in theory, probably promise him a big opportunity. Are you okay with Aspinall getting this above Gane, all things considered?
Wait, Aspinall getting what?
I'm sorry. I meant Volkov above Gane. Volkov and Gane fought recently. Close.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, dude. Volkov got screwed. Gane didn't win that fight. I don't give a fuck what those judges said. You saw with your own eyes. So did I. So did everybody watching this. There's nobody in their right mind who thought that. I mean, maybe you could squint and kind of see a scorecard for Gane, but Gane didn't win that fight. Volkov won that fight. Volkov was better on that night, and he got screwed. There's only so much you can do about that. The commissions don't let you review the decision. So to the point you're raising, I have, again, as a fight by itself, just Poatan versus Volkov, is that a cool pairing? Yeah, it's a great pairing, or at least a pretty decent one, I would argue. It just seems really weird that they can't get this fight between Poatan and Ankalaev over the finish line.
I don't think they want to, dude. I mean, he got skipped the shit out of in 2024, right? He got unnecessarily Roundtree in, even if that was for entertainment purposes or to reward Poatan for constantly bailing them out, giving him an action opponent in that regard. But if you're Team Ankalaev, I mean, I know he had his opportunity in the past and had that weird draw with Blachowicz, but all he's done since then is win. I mean, whatever. But hey, more info to come, I'm sure. We got to wait and see what the reasons are or if this happens. But
real quick. Long Island Luke, if they make the fight at heavyweight between Poatan and Volkov, give me the money line.
Pereira minus 200. Volkov
What?
plus 175.
Oh, bold. Tell me why you think that, because I had it the opposite. Tell me what you think.
I mean,
that.
all right, so the size could be a huge factor. We're talking a former middleweight against a lifelong heavyweight.
And a
And
big
he's
ass heavyweight at that.
6'7". Yeah, and he's 6'7". All right, maybe I don't know, dude. You didn't give me enough time to really think about it, but I still want to favor Poatan in that fight.
Dude,
Okay.
Poatan's speed is going to be a problem.
Yeah,
for
don't get me
Volkov.
wrong. I'm okay with Poatan being a favorite, but I think it's a little bit closer to a pick'em than it is minus 200.
I don't know. I mean,
I'll
dude,
go as low as minus 150 plus 125.
Okay,
Am I
can live
wrong?
with that.
Didn't Poatan compete at heavyweight in kickboxing and do just fine?
He was a 2-division champ. I don't know if he went as high as heavyweight.
Okay. All right. We'll have to see what goes on with that. All right. Let's get into the meat of our show and let's kick it off with a topic you knew was coming because the fights are back after a 20-something day gap on the UFC schedule through the holidays. We got a fight night fight card this Saturday, Apex, and it is a strawweight women's main event, a rematch of a fight from back in 2019, pre-pandemic, when Mackenzie Dern took on Amanda Ribas just 4 months after giving birth and ended up losing a 30-27 on all three scorecards, unanimous decision to Ribas. Almost 6 years later, they're certainly in much different places than they were back then, considering that was just Ribas' second UFC fight. But as we head into this rematch in the main event, let's talk about the DraftKings line at the moment. Minus 192 is Amanda Ribas, your betting favorite, plus 160 Mackenzie Dern. Both have been very flip-flop-ish of late. In fact, Ribas has juggled wins and losses in alternating fashion in her last 8 bouts. But Luke, I got to start off with this. As much as Ribas has been feast or famine over the last 8 fights, she has been moving up and down in weight whenever the opportunities are there. Her last 2 losses came at 125 pounds. When it comes to 115, Ribas is actually 6-1 overall, with the only loss being a stoppage to Marina Rodriguez. She's got wins over Virna Jandiroba, for example. So this is a very interesting matchup that could end up being some form of a #1 contender type match, given the lack of depth at the moment in this historically deep division. Luke Thomas, as we head into the rematch, what are your thoughts on this fight, the terms, the stakes, and what we should expect Saturday night?
This is a really interesting one. You note about the changes in weight, right? So she made her flyweight debut against Paige Van Zandt. This is Amanda Ribas in 2020. Then went back to strawweight against Marina Rodriguez, losing there. She rebounded against Virna Jandiroba. Went back to flyweight against Caitlin Chookagian, lost. Back to I think she stayed at flyweight, beating Araujo and then losing to Macy Barber. So kind of up and down, but mostly losing. And then goes back to strawweight and then beats Pinheiro. And then I guess in her last fight, she was against Rose Namajunas. That bout,
at 125, yeah.
At 125, right. So to your point, she's had much greater success, obviously in a different weight class, and that portends something nice for her. But I think there's a bigger picture involved here, and it's why this fight is happening. I think it's a natural question. It's like, why is Mackenzie Dern fighting Amanda Ribas again? It wasn't exactly like they were on a collision course, but I think the reality is they first fought in 2019. It's kind of a meeting again to like as a measuring stick of like, where are we in all of this? Where are we with you guys? Where are each of you in your development? They're both 31 years of age, by the way, so they're still ostensibly in the middle of their athletic prime, or at least the latter half of it, I think maybe is a better way to put that, but still firmly in the prime. Like, where are we going with this? Yes, there's been weight class changes for Amanda Ribas, but she's been up and down. She wins one, she loses one. She wins one, she loses one. In the case of Dern, there's a lot of times where she is treating it like horseshoe, where she gets kind of close, but not enough, and she loses. Obviously, she's coming off a win in her last bout, which was pretty decent. But, you know, her takedowns have been just she has some of the worst takedowns for anybody who's a ranked fighter in the UFC. And I would actually argue for anyone who's a ranked fighter, she probably has the worst takedowns, which just blows your mind, given the necessity for that to really make her ground game useful. And so I think the UFC is just pairing them here, BC, because one, there's probably a decent bout of action here, and two, as you mentioned, there's limited options. But more than that, it's kind of a check-in. It's kind of a like, all right, some time has passed. Where are we with you two? Where are we with this division? Where are we with a lot of what's coming and what's going? Let's put them back together almost 6 years later and see what we can get. I sort of get the matchmaking here.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're both very popular fighters too, charismatic, have big, have followers that enjoy watching them fight, enjoy their personalities.
I don't think it's quite right to call them very popular. I don't think that's quite true.
All right, maybe I'm focusing too much on the personalities. Maybe two people tune in for other reasons too, Luke. But both are amiable in this regard. So it's going to be interesting. And Dern did say this week that she is focused on basically exclusive wrestling practice to continue to evolve her game. So we'll see it. She comes in, Dern, ranked number 6 at 115 pounds, and you have Ribas ranked number 8. Luke, is it weird to you at all that Dern, whose accent has changed over the years to be more Brazilian sounding, native sounding, that she refers to Amanda as Ribas and not Ribas?
BC, let me ask you a question. Do you think that she is putting on a show for people?
I don't know. I ask the questions, you provide the answers in this current segment.
Okay, well, now I'm returning the favor. Do you believe she is putting on a show for people?
I don't know. I really don't know. I just think it's a fun topic that people really. All right, let's throw the picture here. So Mackenzie Dern did show up at Media Day this week with her new dog, Mac, a giant pup that she is using as a service dog. Luke, he took over and pretty much dominated the Media Day proceedings. Let's throw now to Mackenzie Dern talking about how Mac is helping her fighting game.
Maybe the biggest service dog I've ever seen. I'm curious why you felt the need to bring your security with you today.
Yeah, he's like security and emotional support. He helps me a lot, just being comfortable. I'm kind of trying to stay as calm as I can, and I think what I'm most needing in my fights is composure, and to kind of just go into the apex one more time and feel like it's a training session. He goes to the gym with me and everything like that. Mo is going to be here on Friday, so it's kind of the best way to just keep me, relaxed and not getting all my nerves, up too high.
So it's more about keeping things familiar, right? Keeping the things of fight week the same as they are in the gym.
Exactly.
Will he be at the apex?
Maybe. Okay.
Luke, the dog part of it is cute, but I think the idea of composure in general, considering Dern flip-flops his wins and losses so often, she can also really flip-flop her commitment to the performance, not commitment to take punishment and keep fighting, but commitment to hold her technique, stick to the game plan. Sometimes Jason Perillo's in her corner, sometimes he's not. Sometimes it's her dad, her new man. There's no more excuses now after flip-flopping wins and losses for so many years and us just waiting for her to win a big fight so the UFC can put her in a title shot like they want to. Is now the time, you think, where she's going to find that composure, put it together, and we may be able to see Saturday night for the first time the very best of Mackenzie Dern at 115?
I don't have much confidence. I mean, I'll be clear, to the extent she can win, to the extent she can lose, right? I mean, I know it's sort of like a tautological statement, but what I mean by that is, on any given night against any of her peers, for the most part, you would imagine if she could get a takedown or get on top or find her way to the back or, use some of the skills that she does have, there's a way for her to beat basically anybody in that division, which has been sort of like the frustrating part about her development, is that she can't, consistently or forget uniformly, but, even reliably get to those places. But sometimes she does. Sometimes she does get to those places. And to her credit, she's very durable. She's very tough. She could take a punch and it doesn't really deter her composure. I think that is actually pretty important and whatnot. And so I think all of those things are going to be brought to bear. But I think if we're asking if you're in the middle or maybe even, starting to enter the sort of second phase of your prime, are you finally going to get it together? You're not going to finally get it together. So I want to be clear. I'm not declaring to you, BC, she's not going to win on Saturday. That's really not my point. But like this crystallizing moment where everything is going to come together and we're just going to, okay, this is the Mackenzie Dern we've been waiting for. You would have seen progress some time ago that would have enabled a night like that. So could she win? Yes. Might she win? Could maybe even, I don't even know what the odds are. Maybe it's likely, but I just feel like we would have already seen evidence to give us some confidence that this would have been that next step. She can win, she can lose, but I don't think that crystallizing moment is coming.
She has 9 lives as a fighter, meaning we're probably going to be waiting for the right performance that finally puts her as whole the whole time of her career. But you mentioned the odds, and I said them earlier, minus 192 for Ribas, plus 160 for Dern. So Luke, obviously the central the piece of business from a strategy standpoint. And Dern said it herself at Media Day this week. She said, obviously, I'm not hiding here. My plan is to take Ribas down and work her on the ground. She talked about really putting in the time on takedowns and really looking to evolve in that area. Does Ribas, as the betting favorite here, have the ability to keep this fight on the feet? And do you think Ribas could get the better of the striking if that's the case?
Yeah, in fact, in their first fight, let me go back to it here very quickly, if I may, when Amanda Ribas fought her. But first of all, Amanda Ribas has only ever given up one takedown in a fight. Now, that's happened a couple of times, but never more than one. That's the most she's ever given up. When she fought Mackenzie Dern the first time, she took 2 takedowns and gave up none. I absolutely think she has the ability to take it to the ground. A lot of times, I mean, we know the story, right? This is the frustrating part about Mackenzie Dern. She overruns position. She overcommits. She walks right into stuff. And Ribas has a decorated judo background. In fact, the first takedown that she got on Dern the first time they fought was Dern kind of rushing into position. And then it was let me think again. It was a Harai Goshi she got her with, and then threw her right over the top and landed on top. Now, again, how much you want to do that, because once you get there, it's a very different ball game. But, the point I'm trying to make is the takedown is really going to be a function of what kind of performance Ribas turns in. And she has, I think, 85. I'll look it up here in just a second. Yeah, actually, I can tell you now. Her overall takedown defensive rate, Amanda Ribas, yeah, it's 85%. I mean, it's pretty strong. It's very good. So, like, could Mackenzie Dern get her down? Yeah, but Mackenzie Dern's takedown accuracy is a whopping 16%. And even that's a little bit, I mean, it's just abysmal. So, it's what I mean. Like, could it happen? Of course. And if it does, Ribas cannot hang with her on the ground. That's the reality. But, like, there's just so many gaps in Mackenzie Dern's game that, like, it's like, I don't know what to say.
She's addressing it, though. I liked her sit down with the media this week. She said, look, I've got an issue with sort of drawing drama into my life. She also admitted in the past that as soon as she gets hit with a big punch, she gets that red feeling where she just kind of loses control of the game plan and just wants to come back brawling. But to be fair, Luke, on the flip side, and even though I don't think you can fully hold the first fight in its terms and the results in terms of how this one will be, not just because it's so many years later, but let's be fair, Dern readily admits she shouldn't have come back that early from pregnancy, wasn't in her normal great shape. She's in tremendous conditioning shape the last few fights. So I think we're going to see a different story, but that same theme applies to Dern. And I think it also applies to Ribas. They too quickly get off of their game plans. They love to fight. They love to brawl. They've got a tough recuperative nature to themselves. Maybe this comes down not as much of a sloppy brawl, but who can be more composed and stick to the game plan. We do have sound. Long Island Luke, if you could throw to the second sound of Ribas talking exactly about that, really trying to focus on listening to her coaches, and she's noticing a difference when she does that.
Sometimes me as athlete, I just think with my heart, like, okay, let's go. But sometimes you need to think with the brain. Like, you did 3 fights in less than 1 year. So recovery, not just the body, but the technically, let's get better. And I learned that I need to listen to coaches and my brain too.
So, look, part of that recovery she was mentioning was that her team forced her to take her father, Marcelo. Her father, Marcelo, with the greatest Father's Day tattoo ever, by the way, of Emily Whitmire getting choked out, power slap.
This is a tattoo for Violetta. I don't know if you know that, if I've ever explained that to you.
I did not know that. Show that, Luke.
This is a tattoo for Violetta. I took, that's a true story, very quickly. I took, they found coins in Colombia from pre-Columbian history, like old, like centuries old money. And I took the design from it and I put it on a letter V. Nice. And I put it here. So this is for her. So he ain't the only dad getting tattoos for his daughter. I want to be clear about that.
Well, I was going to say, you just triggered me to now want to interview him with a translator so I can show him your father-daughter tattoo and see if he clowns it the same. But in all seriousness here for Ribas, look, I think this is the right mindset to have. When she does stick to that game plan and fight a little bit more focused and conservatively, she's a very good athlete. She's tough. She's got a good striking game. So this will be very interesting, Luke, as will the stakes. I mentioned they're ranked 6th and 8th coming in respectively. Dern ranked higher. But this division is going through some changes here. Whaley only fought once this year. Suarez didn't fight at all. Finally, we're going to see the two of them in early 25 in a title fight. But the rest of this top 10 is in almost a transitional point. If you had to argue who was the next highest ranked, most deserving title challenger, it might be Virna Jandiroba, who's on a nice win streak. But Luke, Jandiroba's last 2 losses came against Mackenzie Dern and Amanda Ribas. So you do have to wonder whether this is a sneaky number one contenders fight in hiding. And we do have Amanda Ribas talking about this idea that if either one looks great on Saturday night, maybe they can get the next call.
If we do see the belt change, do you think that Weili deserves a rematch, or would you like to see somebody else get that nod first, should the belt change hands?
I think to move the category, Weili Zhang, if she wins, I'm here. Don't rematch steadily. No, there is other girls.
Well, speaking of that, you mentioned, Virna's name got mentioned. You know, I feel like she's been waiting around for a while. If she was, do you feel that she's deserving to get the winner of that match, or do you rather see that this fight with you and Mackenzie is a contender bout?
I think she needs to wait this fight because we both deserve that too.
Awesome.
Luke, here's the question I got to ask about this. Not only did Jandiroba have recent defeats to the two of them, but Jandiroba's got a more impressive win streak of late. Ribas says, yeah, I should slide in and get the shot. Dern actually said this week that she thinks the winner of this fight on Saturday would need 1 to 2 more wins to deserve a title shot. Would it be fair to Jandiroba if the winner got the pass in this case?
No, neither of these women deserve a title shot, not with this win or even the next one. This is a fucking absurd. I mean, it's a relevant conversation to have for the reasons you articulated, but it's also kind of absurd to rank 6 and 8. And even, I mean, BC, like, even if they were to win or get a title shot, you're going to pick any of them to give Zhang Weili a tough fight? Like,
no.
She's going to beat the living fuck out of both of them. I mean, it's
don't
not
forget
even.
Suarez may win the title first, Luke. Okay, don't forget.
Yeah, no, I understand, but I'm simply saying, imagine it was Zhang Weili. Like, get the fuck out of here with this. Like, that is nonsensical. No, to me, again, this is to me a bit of a moment where the Ultimate Fighting Championship is looking at what they have in this division, making some plans for 2025, and then asking both of them, where are you two headed? And I think this will give a bit of a clarifying answer. I don't think it's exactly like we need a title shot. I mean, obviously they want to create contenders as best they can, but that's not the most pressing thing. The most pressing thing is, are you going to turn into something? That's really the question.
I feel like you're about to tell me that your prediction is that they fight to a sloppy, not following their game plan, but exciting draw, and neither advances further in the rankings. I mean, does
that sound like a deeply unlikely possibility to you?
I mean, it could be. Why don't you tell us what you think will happen?
Ribas should win. Should being the operative word here. Again, Dern is dangerous on the ground. Not a soul on that division can hang with her whatsoever. I mean, they can neutralize her maybe, but they can't go move for move with her. That's really not going to work. So, but on the feet, dude, she takes risks and she's durable, and all these things make her dangerous, but they make her hittable. They make her vulnerable. They get her out of position. Dangerous dangerous opponent, but eminently beatable is the way I would consider her.
Dude, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go Dern here. I don't look, I already predicted she'd. Oh, thank you. I already predicted she'd have like another split year, one win, then step up and get a loss, and we'd be in the same position. But Dern is almost, it hasn't been every other fight like Ribas, win, loss. There's been 2 losses in a row, but then bounce back. But there is, it's not necessarily comparable to the Rose Namajunas every 4th fight theory that Pat Barry has that actually kind of matches up. But I feel like she is due. As good as Ribas is, and even though she's better at 115, she's not a finisher. They both love to get lured into brawls. I wonder here if Dern can do enough to get the decision. But also, Luke, I wonder, even though I fully agree with what you said about neither one really deserving it here, Dern's going to get the title shot if she wins. I know it, and you know it too, Luke. Okay? Deal with it. She will, especially if Suarez beats Weili. They're going to do Suarez versus Dern, and you know this.
Yeah. If Suarez wins, it's a different ball game. I'll admit to that, because, it kind of works putting Dern and Suarez together, because in part you're daring Suarez to take her down, which, again, could Suarez take Dern down like taking candy from a baby? I don't think there's really any issue with that. But once it happens, then it's a very different ballgame. I agree that if Suarez wins, it changes the complexion. I just think that I think half of Mackenzie Dern analysis from people is just wish casting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
or
we
lust
wish
and
for her
grossness,
to
maybe.
be able to really settle into our expectations of her. And again, at times she does. At times you're like, right, that right there. That's what I was looking for. But it's so fucking few and far between that it's like, are we actually building a sustainable ladder to development to get there? And that's the part where I just don't really see the evidence for. I hope, BC, I hope that you are. I mean, it's quite genuinely. I think it's better for MMA if stars break out. 2024 was a good year for Topuria. It was a good year for Poetson. It was a good year for a couple of people, Buckley, blah, blah, blah. But like we didn't get like a bunch of star power built. Poeton being kind of the exception, and Topuria to an extent as well. But even then, just not much. Not much was moving, especially in the women's game. Kayla Harrison came around, but was like star power generated. No. So like it would be good for women's MMA if Dern won and then had a matchup with, you know, Tatiana Suarez or whatever. So I hope these things happen. I'm just a lot of wish casting. I don't know.
Speaking of the other side of analyzing Dern's fights and people focusing too much on the inappropriate side, did you see Aljamain Sterling and his fiance put out a 1-hour podcast yesterday ranking the hottest UFC female fighters? I'm not doing a bit.
It was a fucking hour?
Yes, it was.
Who's the audience for that?
In the entire horned up MMA audience. I mean, obviously,
I could not imagine doing something like that. That's
I was shocked. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was like someone, did one of these memes that made it look like it. I clicked on
like how were they? What was the criteria? Like,
I skimmed it for like a grand total of about 60 seconds because it was, but it wasn't like over the top provocative. It was just like, oh, she's really cute. Yeah, I like the way she does her hair like that. Oh, yeah.
Once again, really when people have bad impressions of MMA and who likes it, they're entirely justified. So just remember that.
Thank you very much. All right, let's quickly look at the rest of this card. Our co-main event is a welterweight tilt. Not overly sexy, but the all-action Santiago Ponzinibbio will be a -142 betting favorite against the +120 Carlston Harris. The odds are close. It could be a banger. I don't think the stakes are high, Luke. How would you rank this matchup and really the card in general in terms of depth and entertainment factor?
There are interesting parts of this card, which I know we say more generally, but I actually can articulate what they are if you want to get to that in just a moment. This co-main event, I'm going to be as clear as I possibly can be with the audience. I don't give a fuck about this co-main.
Wow.
I mean, great. So I don't have anything against Santiago Ponzinibbio. I don't have anything against Carlston Harris. It'll be as exciting probably as long as it lasts. It means nothing. It takes us nowhere. It doesn't signify anything. I don't give a fuck about this fight.
Well, Luke, Ponzi is 38. He's lost 2 in a row, 4 of his last 5, and 5 of his last 7.
Who cares? I mean, sorry, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I don't care. I don't care.
Harris
about this
is 37 and coming off a knockout loss. So yeah, it's a Apex special for us here at 2025.
But there are gems on this card. Can we talk about them?
I would love to.
Okay. So first of all, you could actually give a bit of a nod to the Cesar Almeida fight with Abdul Razak Al Hassan. I think there's something to be said for him. Almeida 6-1, kind of coming up a little bit in the middleweight circuit, but that's really not the one that I'm focused on. There are 3 other fights I would say that I'm most focused on. Number 1, how about Chris Curtis taking on Roman Kopylov? We had a bit of a weird thing where he was accusing them of spying on him. Turned out there was nothing to that, but forget all that. Chris Curtis has said doesn't want to lose 2 in a row. I've talked to Chris Curtis privately about, some of his, what are the strengths and weaknesses of his fight style, right? And one of the things that I think is one of his strengths is actually his body punching, but I don't know to what extent that actually translates into judges understanding what he's doing, and how much impact he's actually having. Also, I think cage cutting has been a bit of a problem for him. He can do it, but just doesn't. And Kopylov has limits, but is a hard-nosed, in-your-face striker. He's going to want to operate more at kickboxing range. And then, obviously, Chris Curtis is going to be, because he wants to touch you to the body, is going to be a lot closer with his fists. So what I mean is, in terms of distancing, this is a really, really interesting fight about who's going to dominate what space and what they're going to be able to get off. I also think that Kopylov is a bit more of an explosive striker than a guy like Curtis. Curtis a little more of a setup, kind of not exactly volume, but more rhythm striker. That's a really, really interesting, fun, and potentially very violent middleweight clash. Love that one.
Yeah, let me just tell you what the odds there. Chris Curtis plus 200. He has just one win in his last 5, a couple losses and a no contest. But Kopylov minus 245. And Luke, he's won 5 of 6 with the only loss being the submission to Fluffy Hernandez. So he's certainly rising at the moment.
Yeah, and then Fluffy Hernandez was getting chewed up a little bit before he just took over. Kopylov is fucking dangerous, man. He's a hard-nosed guy. Really, really tough.
Russian hammer, right? Let me put it in the cupboard right back.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one to pay attention to. People have written, this is true, and what I'm about to say is very true. People have written me about this next guy, Austin Bashi. 13-0, coming off the Contender Series. He's taking on Christian Rodriguez. Christian Rodriguez, you'll recall, is the guy that upset the apple cart against the Habsburg. What's his name? Raul Rosas Jr.
Chihuihuis, yes.
Yes, I forgot about Chihuihuis. Yes, the Chihuihuis guy.
Yeah.
Bashi, 13-0. This will be his full-on UFC debut. I had multiple people write me about this kid saying, whatever you think about people coming off the Contender Series, look out for him. One was a training partner of his. One was another guy who just was a big, seemed like a booster. But both of them were over the fucking moon about him. Apparently he can wrestle. He can do great jiu-jitsu. Apparently he's got big punching power as well. Like, he seems to be somebody who's got a significant amount of promise. But as we saw, Christian Rodriguez is nobody to take lightly. So that's a really fun, interesting contest.
So that's Bashi, a minus 270 favorite against the plus 220 Christian Rodriguez. Long Island, Luke, quickly, you're usually high up on these undercard guys. Is Bashi somebody that you've been looking at?
So I also, like Luke, have been hearing a lot of hype about Bashi. Did a little deep dive on his opponents. He fought a guy last year who was 15-33. I mean, who are we fighting here? I don't know.
Okay, but if you're fighting on the regional scene, bro, that is part of just what happens.
You're right. But I took C-Rod here, and I also took Chris Curtis in the last fight. Dogs all day. Let's go.
Okay, all right. You know what? I'm not making any claims about the betting. I'm just telling you which fights I like. Bashi Rodriguez, fucking love this fight. Another one you really got to pay attention to that is actually very, very important here, BC. Much further down the list is going to be Jacoby Smith, a former Division I All-American, I believe. 9-0, undefeated, taking on a guy by the name of Preston Parsons. Parsons obviously has fought in the UFC before. Jacoby Smith also coming off of the Contender Series where he won in the second round via ground and pound. He looks to be the real deal. He has interesting ways to snatch guys off of their base. He can take the back, very athletic, seems to be very naturally gifted. Like, some guys have good Division I wrestling styles, but they don't quite translate over to MMA. He looks like he's got it all lined up and ready to go. But again, taking on someone who is not wet behind the ears, a guy who's not nearly 20 fights in the game, that's a fun one to pay attention to if I can. And then lastly, BC, another one that is kind of worth keeping your eye on, maybe just as like a fun-ass banger alert.
Bang it.
Punahele Soriano taking on Uroš Medic.
Yes.
Yeah. Dude, those two fucking guys are going to kill each other. They're going to kill each other.
Shot down the Dirty Bird violently in that first round stoppage of Tim Means. So he's a minus 218 favorite, the Serbian Uroš Medic. But we know Punahele can bang. So yeah, I certainly have that one circled as well.
And then also Victoria Dudikova taking on Fatima Klein, probably some fun there. There's some other ones too. You could point to Marco Tullio or Tuilo. I don't know how Tullio had it. I'm not sure how to say his name. He's pretty good on this. He's taking on Ihor Potieria. So this is what I mentioned. Like, there's a couple ones you could pick. The ones I like Curtis Kopylov. I like the debut of Jacoby Smith. I like the debut of Bashi. Pay attention to those for sure.
I wonder if Uros is going to need a medic after this fight. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're worse than Osama bin Laden.
Long Island Luke, last chance on this undercard. Anything else we should be looking at while we listen to your podcast on Saturday?
Nah, I feel like Luke ran through them. C-Rod and Chris Curtis are my dogs of the week. Otherwise, I got a long parlay on the main card. Tune in.
Oh, no one does more betting and bong analysis like Long Island Luke Nocita. So shout out to the main card.
The intersection between bongs and MMA betting right there.
There it is. Let's go to topic number 2. And it was a New York Times report this week that seems to be bringing more understanding to that elephant in the room in boxing and in some form mixed martial arts. And that's Zuffa boxing, the idea that Dana White, UFC, and parent companies TKO and Endeavor could add boxing to the TKO landscape, which includes, of course, UFC, WWE, and increased interest in grappling in the new year. And now this, the report from the New York Times says that TKO and the nation of Saudi Arabia are planning to combine with an announcement coming in the next few weeks. Their collective forces, the money from Saudi, and of course the organization, intel, and execution of the UFC to launch a boxing prospect league. Now, according to the report, this would not be big name fighters, champions. It would be young prospects, maybe so they can control the payment, the salaries. Well, we can speculate on that. But Luke, if you remember the MSG UFC pay-per-view with John Jones and Stipe in November, and Yasser Al-Rumayyan, if I'm pronouncing that correct, the governor of Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, was precariously sitting next to Trump and Dana, had a big face on camera in those big moments by the cage, John Jones dancing for Donald Trump. So we thought that could be a precursor to something. According to this report, TKO could earn $30 million per year from Saudi in management fees, and then significantly more in hosting fees for fight cards that take place in Saudi, up to $20 million per card. There also is plans for cards to be in the US, across Europe, and possibly other Arab nations. No comment yet from TKO UFC whether this is happening, but we knew something was happening, Luke. We don't know the network, although the story did speculate that TKO could look to bundle UFC with boxing as part of their new TV deal. Finally, it seems like we see what they're planning. Will it work? Will you care? What are your thoughts about this?
I mean, I'm definitely going to pay attention. You've got important power players inside of combat sports and frankly, I mean, it's not exaggeration on the Saudi Arabian side, like world governments being involved. I don't know how you could at least not pay some attention to that if you are in this business working, right? I mean, you just kind of have to see what this is going to be about. Once again, BC, it's one of these things where it's like, we only got a few details. There hasn't been an announcement. We have to have some kind of a measured response. So a big part of me is kind of just going to say, let's just see what they do, right? But I guess I would have two things that I'm going to look at. First, to what extent is this partnership going to be designed in some kind of way to circumvent the Ali Act? Now, here's what I mean by that. When I say circumvent, I don't mean break the law. That's really not what I mean. What I mean is the UFC understands the ball game. If you're going to operate in any individual territory, you have to play ball by the rules. And sometimes that can mean having relationships with the people who make the rules so that the rules are a little bit more favorable, but you got to obey the rules. I give the UFC credit. They don't really fuck around with that. So they're going to obey the rules. But the question is, where are they going to put this product? Who is going to be in control of it? Where is it going to be staged? What are going to be the relevant regulatory authorities in place? And to what extent are they going to operate with inside or outside the boundaries of the Ali Act? I don't know the answers to any of these questions, but it's something I'm paying attention to.
Can I comment on that quickly?
Please.
I will say this: as much as that should be a concern, because that the Ali Act is there for a reason in boxing, although maybe it was there more to prevent somebody from trying to be a promoter and manager at the same time for a fighter, which is competing interests. But Al Heyman kind of laid the blueprint when he launched PBC in 2015 on how to do this legally. Don't forget, when he did launch PBC in 2015, he got sued by all the other big-time promoters who were saying the same thing. You're violating the Ali Act. You're trying to build a monopoly, because Al had time buys on all the major networks to sort of push back his competition. But what Al did was just have a stable of promoters that work for him, even though he's technically the one calling the shots. Couldn't Dana just use Tom Loeffler like he's doing in the Callum Walsh, experiment right now, in terms of just bringing on promoters? So he's, yes, I guess, sort of managing the fighters and doing the matchmaking, but I don't feel like that's something that is a thing anymore. Am I wrong?
I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I genuinely don't know. But these are people like, again, I always say this, like, why is Dana White involved in Power Slap? Is it because he actually thinks slapping is all that great? I mean, he might, I don't know. But part of it is because it's largely unregulated. These are guys that think that the problem with boxing is that there are regulations in place that make people have to share power. To what extent are they going to operate in this space within those confines, or are they going to what extent are they going to try to operate beyond those confines, again, under a different regulatory scheme that is more favorable, not breaking the law, just finding a place that is more favorable to their interests? I don't think it's an idle consideration to at least have that. But the second thing I think is actually a little bit more interesting, which is they're making it a prospect show, and folks are like, oh, okay, well, they're not trying to sign, Canelo. They're not trying to sign Bud Crawford. They're not trying to sign Teofimo Lopez. So this is, you know, like to what extent they're going to have a footprint in boxing. But like, let's not be naive about this. Why would they be signing prospects? For a lot of reasons. One is they're going to be cheaper, but also in case any of them turn into pay-per-view stars, you can lock them up with deals very early. Consider what the Ultimate Fighters model was exactly. Find guys early on, ready to take some risk, ready to accept a different kind of opportunity, who are looking to level up, and then get them in a deal for an exorbitant amount of fights at a, you know, fairly low price, and then call it a 6-figure deal. I don't know if they're going to give them a 6-figure deal, BC. That's not the point I'm trying to make. But the point I am trying to make is you get guys before they are expensive, while they are cheap, and then hold them into this long contracts. And that's where the Ali Act comes into play.
Okay.
But the length nature of the contracts that the Ali Act is at least intended to prevent.
No, in that regard, you're right, and that's still very a viable situation. I just meant that everyone sued Al Heyman, and then he got cleared in every court case, and they're like, no, he's doing it the legal way. Look, it is exciting for all the reasons you mentioned, the idea of bringing some level of organization, obviously on the smaller scale with the prospects, and sort of ingraining them through or whatever in terms of into the UFC style, which I guess in theory would mean smaller pay. But I think also, Luke, you know, Saudi in general is going to have to figure out, if they're going to be in boxing for the long run, how to make money and make the finances sustainable, right?
Yes, fine. Does TKO or the Sovereign Wealth Fund look like people that are hurting for cash?
No, nor do they look like people that care if fighters are making a certain amount.
You're talking about the biggest entity in combat sports and Saudi money. Like, holy fucking shit. If anybody can afford to, you know, put a little extra steam on it, it's them two. You know, I understand that. Obviously, even if they got involved, they would want it to be financially profitable. And again, that's where it goes into getting the prospects, not full-on automatic contenders. But like, dude, how many times can you listen to the rhetoric of Dana White talking about how bad boxing is and how it's broken and blah, 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 and then see he wants to get into it, but with someone else's money, and then also at the prospect level. Like, you know, I think we cannot impugn everyone's motives, but we cannot be naive about it either.
Well, this does confirm everything Mark Shapiro of TKO has been saying in business interviews, that they would only get into boxing if it was someone else's money, if they were brought in as like a manager consultant to run the operation. Look, as a boxing fan, also a journalist, also a broadcaster, but as a boxing fan, I am excited long-term to see what this could be. If there's a Ultimate Fighter type, you know, boxing equivalent here. I mean, look, this model does work. 20 years ago, The Contender season 1, Sergio Mora, I mean, it worked, right? I mean, there is an idea of presenting the sport a certain way that connects with people. What if they match aggressively? What if there's an incentive like there is in the UFC to get knockouts in battle? Could this be something fun, you know, to add to the boxing landscape? It is interesting to see what it will be. So we'll see if the report is true. I've always said, if Dana ends up coming into boxing, it can't be the way he thought it would be back in 2017, 2018, when he was wearing the Zuffa boxing shirt and thinking he's just going to walk in and become a major player, right? It's not that easy to have that level of control. But starting at the grassroots level, this is interesting. So we're all going to be watching to see what happens. Luke, quickly, though, same week, though, that Dana White was added to the board of directors at Meta. So it's not just being best friends with Trump. I mean, TKO in general, with the connections to the Saudi government, the connections to the U.S. government, this is gangster the way they've set themselves up to push their own interests forward in about every single category, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I cannot believe the enormous amount of punishment and reputational harm Dana White had to suffer for exchanging blows with his wife. Remember, he told us not to defend him, so I won't. And he told us like he was going to have to live with the scarlet letter of shame for this. Boy, I got to tell you, I could use some of that. If it puts me on the board of a company with a market cap of $1.5 fucking trillion, I could use some of that. You know what I mean?
Well, I wouldn't encourage you to take on
no. I don't
do any, because I think your wife's a wonderful lady.
I'm simply saying if that's the punishment for bad acts, just give me the punishment. I won't do any of the acts. I want the punishment.
To be fair, you do have two marriages, your romantic one and your editorial one with me. So maybe we get to a point, if we could say, because, you know, people are always like, Luke, if we get to 200,000 subs, will you tell me an embarrassing story or show me your navel tattoo? What about if we get to 500,000 MK subs, you and I getting a power slap one-on-one in Meadowlark Studios, and that's slapping your editorial wife. Right
Then we can use that to be on the board of, like, I don't know, TikTok if they don't get fucking shut down or something. It'd be awesome.
There it is. Loosely related to this was a Brunch Boxing Report Wednesday that ESPN may not be done with boxing altogether and may not be done with Top Rank, a report that the two are in talks to possibly re-sign, although in the report was ESPN wanting Top Rank to match make a little bit more aggressively. So it will be interesting to see, Luke. There's certainly an argument to be had for the future of boxing in, the US or North America in general, to have, ESPN still be a power player in this. So that was encouraging to see.
That definitely. I mean, dude, think about it. If they're gone, if ESPN were to be gone from boxing, there'd be no major broadcaster in the United States showing boxing anymore.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's never happened literally in the course of my life, neither yours. And
I mean, outside of Amazon Prime doing the PBC pay-per-views here and there, right?
I know. Okay, that's not nothing, but that's not like a traditional sports broadcaster. Right. I mean, it's sort of a very new thing, and it doesn't, like, I don't know, there's not a lot of muscle behind it. Like, it airs it, but they don't do like a lot of promotion on the deal. It's scary, dude. It's really fucking scary. I mean, boxing had this insane 2023. So did we, and then it all came crumbling. So I don't know. I'm staying on ESPN, whether it's with Top Rank or anybody else, is critical.
Yeah, a lot of things that will develop over the next 6 to 8 months. We'll see what happens. Luke, playoffs we don't normally talk about in combat sports unless we're talking about the PFL, baby. But the playoffs are here in the National Football League. And Luke, if we're talking about playoffs, you bet we are. First of all, why don't you guys get in on the action ahead of this playoff season with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, an official partner of Morning Combat? Scoring touchdowns, of course, is key to winning the playoffs, but you can score big by betting on these NFL games at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Are you ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. And Luke, when we look ahead, your Washington Commanders are making noise. What are we thinking about the betting odds here heading into this one?
Yeah, so I'll tell you about it right now. If you go to DraftKings Sportsbook and you look at the money line, you've got my Commanders at +145, the Buccaneers at -175. They opened the season playing each other, BC. So this is a bit of a rematch this time in the playoffs. And in fact, the last time that the Commanders were in the playoffs, I believe, was against the Buccaneers, and they lost the end of the game. I could be, I can't recall. But the point I'm trying to make is it's Jaden Daniels versus Baker Mayfield. Now, Baker Mayfield, BC, bit of a donk up and down, but he's playing lights out. Mike Evans is a fucking killer over there for Tampa Bay. But Jaden Daniels has formed. This franchise has turned it around. So I don't know if Long Island Luke is feeling it on the dog side of things, but my Commanders, barely a dog, which I actually agree with. I do think that Tampa Bay is a little more buttoned up, a little more championship ready. But it's been a great year. It's been a great season, and I'm excited about the matchup. That's a great opportunity to get on a winning franchise, the Washington Commanders, +145, DraftKings Sportsbook.
Big time action this weekend in the NFL. How about that Monday night matchup? Minnesota Vikings at LA Rams, -2.5 is the Vikings as the favorite. Very close opportunity there. So download that DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use our code COMBAT with a K. And here's the deal. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's only $5, Luke, only on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Of course, the crown is yours, right? Right, brother? Right?
The crown is indeed yours, yes.
Okay, good stuff. So if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. And in Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Thank you so much to our partner, DraftKings Sportsbook. Luke always knows 5 minutes before the show, the crown is his. That's what we all know. Okay, yeah, there we go. Hey, let's go into topic number 3. when was the last time the UFC was in Seattle, Washington? How about 2013 for a UFC on Fox card headlined by Demetrius Johnson in a flyweight title fight with John Moraga? That's a long ass time ago. We got a pretty good fight night card coming to Seattle February 22nd. Former two-division champion Henry Cejudo in the main event against Song Yadong in a 5-round bantamweight tilt. And in the co-main in the same division there, Dominic Cruz will return from a 2-year layoff to take on veteran Rob Font. And just yesterday, Dom Cruz told ESPN MMA that this will be the final bout of his career. So Long Island Luke, if you can throw to the full fight card, Luke Thomas, for a fight night card here in Seattle, this one's pretty loaded. How excited are you for the announcement of this doubleheader and some of these tasty matchups like Brendan Allen, Fluffy Hernandez, and Michael Chiesa versus Gorimbo there underneath?
All right, so the Cejudo versus Song fight, we'll talk about that in just a second in more detail, but it's, I think, a good fight. I think Song Yadong is going to win that one pretty cleanly. I don't hate Rob Font versus Dominic Cruz, but like Dominic Cruz, this has indicated it's his last fight. Why is he fighting Rob fucking Font? He should either be fighting another legend or somebody who he can set up as like a future guy in the division. I just don't understand that one. The Barboza Garcia fight, I don't have a strong feeling about. Allen versus Hernandez is a rematch from their LFA days. Love that one. Tough fight for Allen, but a good opportunity to get one back if he can. Blades versus Kuniev. Blades getting back to action, and Michael Chiesa, shouts to Big Mike. We like him, taking on Gorimbo, who is coming off that devastating loss in his last contest. Some of the other ones, Kutilaba is a bit of a madman. You have Silva from, I believe, the Fight Nerds, which is fun. Fuck it, and Dulatov, I don't know what to say. The rest of these I don't have a strong opinion of one way or the other.
Interesting. I don't hate the card. Certainly there's some good, star power on there, to say the least, for a fight night card. I like that they're going back to a city they haven't been to in a while, and they're bringing it, Luke. They're not putting out Spivak versus Tybura 3. So I'm down for this, but you can ask questions about the exact choices of this. So first, let's hear from Henry Cejudo, who likes this matchup with Song Yadong, and he thinks he can finish Mr. Favors boy.
I think I'm going to save that for the fight, but I personally like this fight. I have a good game plan set in place for a guy that is about 10 years younger than me. Song is a tough opponent, and I like it, but I can see myself stopping this dude tomorrow. I really can.
I think it's a fantastic
If you want to know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, he's gonna need a lot more than a lot more than a fortune cookie. Let me tell you.
So Luke Thomas, right there.
What the fuck kind of comments?
I don't know. That's the Pound for Pound podcast. Shout out to them.
Jesus Christ.
Luke, what do you think about this matchup from the idea of where we're at for each in the bantamweight division? And Cejudo's a celebrity fighter, so is this a fight that gets him back into contention if he can get the win?
Yeah, it is. It is. Despite his dumbass fortune cookie comment there. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I actually do think it is. Song Yadong is limited in certain ways, but I would say at this point, battle tested, powerful, still getting better. I don't think he's peaked. And so he represents something that, if Cejudo can get a win over a guy who's like strong in that particular way, I think it's not like the best win to be the most relevant, but you're asking, does it reintroduce him into the division in a more relevant way? Absolutely. Any kind of win like this over somebody who is not the top of the division, but credentialed and respected, 100%, no doubt about it. But again, the thing is, if he got the win, that'd be great. But the reality is he would still have to build from there, which is why I'm skeptical that he can. In fact, I think Song Yadong wins this one, but it would be good for him. It would be good. Yes.
Yadong's 27 now. He's 2-2 in his last 4 with a stoppage loss against Corey Sandhagen by submission. And then, of course, he lost to Petr Yan as part of Jan's 2-fight comeback.
Sandhagen loss was a cut, though, which is fine. I don't take it away.
Not a submission. Okay, sorry.
But I'm pretty sure. Long Island Luke, did I get that right? I think he was cut against Corey Sandhagen, if memory serves.
Sorry, I was busy with something else. I honestly wasn't paying attention.
You were.
Yeah, there you go. Early odds here, Long Island Lucas sharing with us, is that Cejudo plus 180 underdog at age 37, Yadong minus 210. Luke, Cejudo, he came close against Aljo, I thought. I thought if he had started a little bit faster, that he maybe could have won that title bout, but he's lost his last 2, and they came directly after a 3-year absence from the octagon. It was the split decision against Sterling, and then, of course, the unanimous decision loss to Merab in February. Like, is it still there for him, Luke? Is it still possible, or is he older celebrity fighter, makes fun matchups with anybody, can main event anytime? Is that where we're at with this?
You're talking about Cejudo?
Yeah, Cejudo.
Yeah, I personally think it's a wrap.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
think I understood why he sat out when he did. And I truly mean this. I understood the motivation behind it. I think the motivation, I don't really have any issue with at all. He felt like he wasn't getting what he deserved, and he didn't want to play that game anymore. Okay, fair. I don't really have a problem with that. But from a tactical decision, did it result in what he wanted? Apparently not. Apparently didn't get him very close at all. I think in that particular sense, it backfired pretty badly, and now he's trying to make up for lost time. But, you know, you're nearly 38 years old at 135 pounds. Good fucking luck. You're going to need it.
Do you agree with me and Cejudo's longtime coach, Eric Albarracin, the captain, who I had on my personal channel a couple months ago, and he admitted too, he said, look, that huge gap that Cejudo took off in his prime when he stepped away, yes, it allowed him to sort of seek out interest in his personal life, to you know, get married and all that stuff, but he stunted the growth that was possible considering the run he was on. Do you look back at the Cejudo journey and have those same questions of what could have been, or no?
I do, dude. When he beat TJ and then he beat Dominic Cruz and, you know, everything in between, dude, he was doing amazing shit. He looked incredible. And like, remember, you got to understand something. When Cejudo first got into MMA, there was obviously a ton of hype, Olympic gold medalist. He was a fuck up. Like, he was missing weight. You know, he was just, there was a lot of issues. People he was surrounding himself with were weirdos. You know, he wasn't sure if he was going to really pan out. And then he got beat by Demetrius the first time, and you're like, damn. And he got stopped. Remember, he got beat up real good. You're just like, I don't know if he's going to turn into something. And then he did. And then he did. And then he sat out right in the middle of it. It's like, you know, again, I don't impugn his motivations for wanting to sit out. I think those were pure and real and genuine, and I respect that. I really do. But as a tactical decision or a strategic vision, it was DOA from the moment he did it. So, yeah.
All right, let's start with some sound here from Dom Cruz, who was looking for that final bout of his career, and he wanted the Cejudo rematch. But according to Dom, Henry said, no. Let's hear it.
Well, they're not giving me. Henry won't take that fight. He just won't. So they just put him on the same card with me, and which is funny to me. Selby did that. Like, I didn't know that they were going to put us on the same card, but you know, Selby knows what he's doing, and you know, I don't know why Henry wouldn't rematch me. I really don't.
Yeah, I was wondering that. Why do you think he won't take the fight?
I mean, the only thing I could think of is I kind of probably, with my words, really embarrassed him a lot, and he probably doesn't want to go through that again. Is the only thing I could think of. But I mean, we're going to fight at the end of it. So I figure he might like that. Like, at the end of the day, whatever I say, whatever he says, it's water off a duck's back for me. Like, nobody has the power to offend me but myself. So there's nothing that little man could say to me to make me not feel one way or another. So I think that's the only reason he didn't want to take it, was just the talking, the banter, because what else would there be? I'm one of the most well-known guys in the division. We have history. There's a story there. We both come from Arizona. Like, there's a lot there. So the only thing I could think of is he just didn't want to deal with the talking, the banter, I guess.
Luke Cruz is 39 years old. The former champion, of course, did fight Cejudo the first time in May of 2020 in a bantamweight title bout, and he was stopped in the second round. It just seems to me like Cejudo still thinks he's in title contention and felt he can get nothing from this. But would you have preferred Cejudo Cruz too, or whatever?
Yeah, I would have. I get why. Again, if Henry, I think mistakenly, but if he does believe a title shot is possible in 2025, it does make sense to not fight a guy you already beat, right? I understand that. And by the way, like, you know, I know Cruz disputes the stoppage, but I don't. I think the stoppage was clean. So I sort of get why Cejudo is taking the path that he gets. I just think it's a bit of a mistake because I think Song Yadong is probably likely to win.
Was that the fight where Cruz said Keith Peterson smells like bitches and hooch?
Yeah. I think it
Yeah,
is. I
in
believe
cold
that's right.
cuts, or did I just add all three of those? And that's hilarious.
That's where he
by the
turned
way.
him into no nonsense Keith Peterson into all nonsense.
All
Keith Peterson.
nonsense. Cruz, the underdog at plus 135 against the minus 155 Font. They're around the same age. I don't hate that. Also, another big layoff will be snapped from Cruz. We got a graphic to throw to. It's been an injury-plagued career, even though he's fought through it and become one of the greatest, in contention for the greatest in his division's history. This will be a 924-day layoff, which is the third longest of his career, dude. Luke, you got to look at that and just obviously give him credit for being a inspirational, motivational psychopath and always pushing through. But imagine what could have been for this guy without that injury thing.
I remember I interviewed him maybe not quite 10 years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And this was when he was in the middle of dealing with his plantar, I think it's plantar fasciitis, where you have the pain and the inflammation on the essentially the what part of the foot is this? I forget. But what he was having to do to deal with it was Botox the bottom of his feet to numb them out. You know what I mean? He has just been plagued. Forget all the ACLs and everything, and then the cadaver tissue that didn't take and all those problems. That was bad enough, but there was a series of all these smaller ones along the way too, where he had to really struggle to get around. He had to really struggle to get through. And so it really impacted his career. But, in the end, even with all of that holding him back, he still did pretty goddamn well. Really well to that extent. So he persevered. Maybe it did limit him. Maybe it changed the trajectory of how things would have gone. But all in all, they still went pretty goddamn well.
Yeah, indeed. Barbosa will be an underdog plus 145 against the minus 170 Garcia. And also, courtesy of DraftKings, Allen, a plus 270 underdog against the minus 340 Fluffy Hernandez. So I'm all in on this card. We'll see that in February. Let's go to topic number 4. Luke, I feel like all we do is talk negative about the PFL, even though I'm fired up for this Usman Nurmagomedov-Paul Hughes battle on January 25th. But the news we have today, first broke by Al Zulino, is that PFL is cutting their $1 million tournament prize in half for 2025. Uncrowned also reported through sources that PFL is expected to remove its tournament point system and become more of a traditional Grand Prix style. Here's the tweet from Al Zulino, who accessed a copy of the new PFL contracts, and you can see that bonus amount cut in half. Luke, Don Davis is scheduled to face the music, by the way, a second time with MMA Fighting's Mike Heck in a town hall, where that seems ill-advised, but maybe we'll get more answers on this. And as you can see on the screen, Zulino also reporting that title challengers in PFL will receive a $50,000 bonus on top of their purse for showing, 50 more if they win, and champions will receive a $100,000 bonus on top of their purse and 100 more if they win. So the latter here are good developments. The cutting the $1 million thing in half of a tournament structure that no one believes is actually healthy for them does not seem like a good development. How do you react to this?
And they also announced they're going to have elbows for all PFL fights. I mean, I don't actually mind it. I really don't. I mean, I'm not the one getting paid, so of course it doesn't affect me in that way. But what I'd say is, for folks who understand, like, if you had however many fights to win the tournament, you didn't get $1 million on that night. Whatever the remainder was to get you to $1 million, they paid. So if it was like 700, 800 grand to get you to $1 million, they would pay that, which of course is a significant amount of money, but it's $1 million for the season. It's not $1 million on that night. And now they're cutting that down to whatever. I mean, again, they're going to be saving millions doing this, is basically the way to understand this. So I understand it in that particular way. I mean, just ask yourself what's happening here, right? Like, what was the last time I won't say fledgling, but the UFC can cut down their cost, and there's really no concern because of the way in which their business is constructed and how much of it the industry that they own. But if you're not that and you're beginning to slash costs, just ask yourself why that might be. And then on top of that, BC, like, while I understand that cost saving is important, I don't think it's really the end of the world, especially if they change and expand their product to beyond just these tournaments that nobody really asked for and this like confusing stuff. The rumor that you indicated was that they're going to get rid of the point system that they had. That goofy
what does that mean? Can you explain that to us? What that means?
What do you mean?
going from the point system to the traditional Grand Prix style. Can you put that into layman's terms?
Basically, like how they were doing before, it was like, oh, if you get a win and you finish, you get X points. If you lose, you get that. And then adding it up and then having this convoluted system that people had to follow to see who would advance. And then sometimes you got like really weird ass matchups, which is very different than the Grand Prix, which is just win in advance. Like that's fucking it. Just win in advance. And of course, people fall out and then injury replacements have to happen. That does exist too. No system is without flaws, but it's just much more straightforward and simple.
So is it single elimination? Because if they go to a single elimination tournament and do it Bellator Grand Prix style, I'm in on that. That's a development. That's a
I don't know if they've confirmed single elimination, but I believe if you're going to go Grand Prix, I don't know how else you do it. I mean, there is another way to do it, but I suspect that they will. But this is the point I want to make, BC. Like, this is what the PFL is doing. It's like it's 2025 and you're just now bringing your product up to the level that Bellator was however many years ago, and they went out of business. Like you're just now allowing elbows in concert with the sort of modern way in which we understand MMA fights to take place. You're finally getting rid of that goofy ass point system that didn't add anything. Like you're finally getting to a system that fans recognize more. In other words, I'm like, it's taken them years just to get to status fucking quo with the way in which they present their products. And on top of that, they're slashing some of these costs that they have. And it's like, I don't mind the slashing of the cost to be leaner. I think that makes sense. I don't mind any of these changes necessarily in a vacuum, BC. Like they're all good in a sense, but they just signal a promotion that is behind, that doesn't understand what they're doing, that doesn't understand the fan base. We've been over this a million times. It's a financial instrument. It's not really a fan-focused kind of entity. And that's why, to me, it's taken them so long to bring this product to a level and with a rule set that fans can easily adopt and understand. It's like it's 2025. You're just now getting to this. Holy shit, man.
Yeah, dude, it's going to be must-see TV with the popcorn for me when Don Davis goes back on Mike Heck's show. Even though Mike Heck is not a predatory, interviewer, he's going to make him answer for a lot of the things people are talking publicly. Do you think this is ill-advised by Don or an opportunity to reset the MMA public's understanding of what PFL is trying to do?
They definitely want to reset understanding, which again, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. But when did PFL debut? However many years ago? What was it?
5 maybe?
So for folks who forget, PFL was built out of the skeleton of World Series of Fighting. Okay, that's where it comes from. And I think this happened in like after 2015 or so. I want to say 2016-ish, 2017-ish, something like that. Someone can correct the record of when the first PFL event was. Luke, Long Island Luke, could you look
Probably
that up?
18. I think 18 might be.
Something like that.
2018, yeah.
Yeah. Under the previous leadership of PFL, I got offered a job to do head of PR there. I don't know if I've ever told you that.
What?
Yeah, back in 2018, I turned them down. But
it could have been you and Don Davis right now. You could have been like telling him what works and doesn't work right now. You could have been
thank God I didn't take that job. But although I do appreciate the gentleman who offered it to me, who moved on to do other things. He's no longer with the company. But the point I'm trying to make is, the lessons that they learned to bring their product to the point that it's going to be in 2025, I'm glad they learned them. These are improvements. It didn't need to take this long. All of the things that we know now, we knew in 2018, and yet they still went through with them and like decided to learn the hard way the entire fucking way through. And this is what I mean about like the guys not being fight guys. Like they have an impossible job to compete with UFC. Like good fucking luck. I don't think it's even really possible. But then you have to make good decisions on top of it in order to get there. And they've been slow to make those too. So I want to be clear. I think that the things that they're doing are setting themselves up much better than the things that they have done. But ask yourself what it means that it took them this long to figure it out this late in the game.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only thing that matters is if they do figure it out this year. I mean, really, to be fair. So this is their last chance in a lot of ways, their last close-up opportunity to do big. I like some of the changes. I'll give them that credit. And dude, I love this January 25th card. I had Usman Nurmagomedov on my personal channel.
You made some news. You made some news with that shit. Good
job.
I
mean, he was cocky as F, dude. Basically completely dismissing Paul Hughes' chances whatsoever and continuing the F Conor McGregor, I'll smash him too. So interesting chat. You can check that out. And we'll be talking about that fight in the next few weeks. Let's go to topic number 5. Jai Opetaia is coming on in boxing, the IBF cruiserweight champion, who's already put together some title defenses, 2 big wins over former champion Myris Brightus on Wednesday morning in Broad Beach, Australia. On DAZN, he made the 4th defense of his title with a 4th-round knockout of David Nika, the New Zealand Olympian. Let me say, first of all, my ignorance, I've been calling him an Australian Olympian all week. Luke, it wasn't really about this fight per se, because Nika was 10-0, was an Olympic medalist for New Zealand, and did come in and fight balls out action style from the opening bell. But this is more of a continuation chat about Opetaia rising and big fights being on the horizon for him. They went back and forth. Opetaia even got hurt in some point in this, but when he delivered the boom in round 4 with that brutal left hook, Nika was out cold. And now we're talking about super big fights for the 29-year-old of Samoan descent, the southpaw in Opetaia. Power in both hands, a good athlete, a warrior mentality. Luke, we may have been a little late to the party on this show, outside of the U.S. in terms of recognizing him, but he's here. Turkey loves him. He's got Eddie Hearn promoting him. What were your thoughts on Opetaia's blowout here after it started off being a back and forth affair?
Here's how you know how good it was. Now everyone is asking if he's the guy to beat Usyk, which, by the way, I have to tell you, I find crazy. I don't think he's at all the guy to beat Usyk. I think that's fucking ridiculous. However, the run he's putting together, the performance he had polishing this guy off of inside 4, right, BC? Something like that. Dude, he looked good. If you're coming on, BC, you better fucking come on. Well, he comes.
Yeah.
He's on his way. And beginning to make you reimagine what's possible at a weight class where I don't think it's the same as it was when Usyk and Briedis were there. I don't think that's really at all quite fair. That was a unique blend of really, it's a special moment for that division, which is historically not necessarily all that strong.
Sure.
But here he is trying to reconstitute it. And with a performance like that, people are now beginning to ask questions about what's possible. That tells you the kind of impact he's had. It's been a big one.
Yeah, look, he's got 1 of 4 belts at cruiserweight. But Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez, Golden Boy
I'm not
fighter,
sold on him.
Well, we've never been, but to be fair, he actually looks better at cruiserweight than he did as a 68 title holder, as a relevant light heavyweight. Remember, he brought that 44-0 record into that Bivol fight.
Yep.
He's got 2 of 4 belts. This is a hell of a unification fight that seems natural to be next. And Eddie Hearn seems to be lining up Usyk. I don't want to throw to the interview because it is a DAZN broadcast and they'll probably make us pull down the episode. But Eddie Hearn came on there and basically said, unification next, and then this is the guy to beat Usyk. Look, Eddie Hearn's promoting, but still, if Turkey wants it, Luke, and he snaps his fingers, look, in Riyadh season, you got to fight. You got to fight tough opponents. So I wonder if we're going to see Opetaia against Usyk sooner than you think. More to come on that. Let's start Opetaia quickly, talking about that fact that he did get rocked in this fight against Nika.
Look, you tell me first, did you feel that backhand?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, definitely. But I think it hit me like on top of the head, and it sort of just like fuzzes you, and then you just come back to it and you're like, oh, you cheeky kind of, you just push on. So it was good, man. And then keep your hands up. So it was good.
I love that, Luke. Okay. It was like a Tasmanian devil there. It was great. We also have a pic, Luke, of your boy Volk, who showed up in Broad Beach on the DAZN broadcast to show a little bit of support for someone. I mean, there's the pic with Eddie Hearn's Sky Nicholson, Luke.
Volk is not that tall.
Not that tall at all, Luke. Not that tall at all. I mean, Sky looks to be in heels there, but it looks like Joe Rogan right there, yeah?
I have seen both in person. I think Volk is shorter.
And all right, there you go.
I think, but I'm not sure about that actually. I think he's shorter. I think he is.
Well, those are our 5 topics right there. Let's hope we get Opetaia Zurdo next, and he's going to go to heavyweight, Luke. It's coming. It's going to happen. So,
by the way, a bit of breaking news. Can I get the breaking news thingy,
wow.
Long Island Luke? The jingle. Among others, says, quote, no truth to the rumor of Pereira versus Volkov. 0, move on.
Who said that?
Kevin Iole.
Well, he has connections, Luke.
Yeah, one more time. No truth. This is exactly what he wrote. No truth to the rumor of Pereira versus Volkov. 0, move on.
All right. Well, it was reported by, a bunch of outlets, including Forbes and the
It
match.
wasn't reported by a bunch of outlets. It was repeated by a bunch of outlets. That's not the same as reporting.
Okay. So it's out there. Ioli says it's false. We'll listen to Big Kev, I guess. You know, he does have Dana on speed dial. So there you go, right there. All right. Let's quickly get in and out of our final topics. We give you that email address, or our final segments, excuse me. We give you the email address every week, morningcombat@gmail.com. You see it on your screen. Your chance to contact the show, dead wrongs, fan submissions. Send Mikey a pic of your piece. Just kidding on that last part. The first one we got is our opportunity to take the stand. Maybe we said something wrong. Maybe you called us out on it. You better come correct. You better bring timestamps. This one's called Did Wrong. Do we have an intro? Tell me we have the intro.
We don't.
No, we don't.
Look at the private chat. No animation.
No, we don't.
Hey, it's 2025. We got to get that shit fixed. Like this, it's enough with the bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Number one here is from Mahalo. It's your boy Daz. Luke, say it. Say the jingle.
Daz, back up on that ass and give these motherfuckers a blast from the past.
That's what I'm talking about. Daz says aloha again, donks. On Friday's show at 21 minutes and 10 seconds, in discussing the least talented UFC champions of all time, LT mentions Dave Mene, saying that Mene was a former, quote, bantamweight champion for a very brief
he was middleweight. I didn't mean that. Fuck, sorry about that.
LT, back when Dave Mene won the inaugural middleweight title at UFC 33 in 2001, the UFC didn't have the 135.
Yes,
division.
I misspoke, fuckface. I mean, he's right. I said that, then that's wrong. But
and the second power was still standing.
Have you ever seen the Phil Baroni KO of Dave Mene?
Yes.
It's one of the most brutal fucking KOs you'll ever see in your life.
Daz says, not sure how Mene and 135 are connected in your brain, but hope you aren't getting washed before our very eyes. Looking forward to all the new content in 25.
I'm definitely getting washed before your very eyes, but yeah.
Luke, Daz is becoming sort of the ombudsman from a dead wrong stance.
We
with us.
need it. We need it.
Does that make his ranking in Hawaiian MMA higher? I mean, I think number one,
Yes,
we've got,
yes, it
what
does.
do we have number one? Max
Holloway? Yeah, it has to be.
Number two is probably what's that guy's name? Telvin Kipapa, probably, right?
Yeah, he's up there. Mm-hmm.
Then you've got Governor Penn.
No, he's pretty. He's got multiple allegations and lawsuits against him for. I need to be careful about that. I'm not exactly sure what the lawsuits are about, but he's got multiple lawsuits from former romantic partners against him actively.
I think he's
as many as 4.
1 and 2 at the Lava Shack too, and did have the UFC record for consecutive losses until Ferguson equaled.
No, Yancy Medeiros on that list. We put a Yancy on.
Yeah,
there.
Kai Kameka's tattoo on Tatis. The Pineapple Princess. You know, we got a few people.
Brad Tavares.
Brad Tavares. Yep. Punahele.
Shout out to Daz. Shout out to Telvin Kipapa. Imagine if Telvin Kipapa's highlight of his week was like to wash dad said his name. You know what I mean? If we can provide that for people, Luke. All right. I hope so. Okay.
That's what we're here for.
Let's go to number 2. This is from Kevin. He says, hey guys, on the 2025 prediction show, BC said Arnold Allen went 2-0 in 2024. Luke then reiterated that as fact. Brian then read Movsar's record stating that Movsar beat Allen recently. Movsar beat Allen in 24 and Allen only won 1 fight. So he's 1-1. Are you two brain damaged?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes,
our last dead wrong comes from Daz. Mahalo, baby. This guy's all over our mole bags. Yeah. Aloha donks at 31 minutes and 55 seconds in discussing flyweight Mohamed Mukhayev's potential return to the UFC. LT posits that Mukhayev, quote, isn't a threat to a Marab or an Umar. Correct, LT, because
he's in 125. Yeah. Fuck me. Yeah.
So any threat would be toward Pantoja. I'm guessing LT misspoke, but he is still dead wrong. Thank you so much.
He's right. I do misspeak a lot. I mean, Dave Mene at 135 is a fucking crazy ass one, considering,
look, people think this segment is unnecessary, but it calls us out. And I love when it's,
I don't think it's unnecessary at all. I mean, sometimes it can get a little pedantic, but in general, it is important. I don't agree with that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our final segment is your opportunity to send in your artwork, pictures of your significant other in our tight t-shirts, or maybe just some weirdness. This one's called Fan Submissions.
You've got mail.
Viewers.
Shout out to Gaffney Jim Pierre on that one half of the main card minute. Let's go to Rusty. He says, longtime subscriber, first time submitter, been repping for years from the center of Canada's frosty capital of Winnipeg. We've been going to Cuba for years. The locals always want my MK merch, but I refuse to give it up. American donks missing out on the Cuban life. The wife hates you guys because I'm always tuned in while she's blathering on about something or other, and I pretend to pay attention. MK for life, MFers. And hey, Luke, the Latin booties are rich here, my son. It's a sight to behold. Peace, fight nerds. It's Rusty and Lil Bird. Luke, I've never seen that t-shirt that he's rocking right there. That green one?
I've never seen that t-shirt either. I didn't know he did that.
Shout
That's
out
like
to
a special edition St. Patty's shirt that you guys had. There was a few of them.
Luke, what do you think of old Rusty and Little Bird here bringing MK to Cuba? I'm in on that, you know?
Yeah, I think it's lovely, but Winnipeg, wouldn't want to live there.
Nah. He just sent his wife to hell too in this. I guess she doesn't listen to our show, but shout out to the lovely couple just the same. All right. Maybe Bill and Jen are still out there in the RV. If you're out there,
God bless them.
You guys. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go to number 2. This is Saul, the real one, the guy who's up on the roof changing lives. Happy New Year. Came home from work and the wife had a craving for some crab legs. I had king crab, a real peach's delight. Great way to start off 25. And she even paid. MK all day. Man, this guy Saul is all man, Luke. All man.
Yeah, I'm not a big king crab guy. Are you?
No. I don't mess with any crabs. Not even.
But you also have the palate of a toddler. I mean,
well, come on. I mean, I'm not gonna go. I don't. I do whitefish, Luke, but I grew up hating seafood. Then I came around to whitefish. I don't go too deep into the exotic.
How are you from New England and you hate seafood?
Unfortunately, because my mom hates seafood and was forced to eat it, they had a rule in her house growing up. You eat it all, and the only way you can get out of eating it all is if you throw up. So like she was forced to eat a lot of gross fish, unseasoned, that she hated, and it permeated into me. It's a
Do you eat sushi?
California rolls. I've done the big time sushi with Chris de Blasio at the big time steakhouses and stuff, or big time places, but it's all right. It's not my thing. I'm not a raw fish guy per se, but I'll do a good whitefish, Luke. That's fine. Okay. Give me some crab cakes. That's fine.
Hey, Maryland crab cakes. Pretty fucking good.
Yeah. Give me some clam chowder, New England clam chowder. Yeah. Come on.
Clam chowder's all right too. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Saul always backing us everywhere he goes?
I mean, he's the man. I mean, he's absolutely one of the most rock-ribbed fight MK fans that we have, and we wouldn't be where we are without him.
Thank you, Saul, for your service. Let's go over to Ryan. He says, here's a fan submission for Friday's show. LOL. This is what came out of Luke on Monday's show when he took off. Good Lord.
The reality is that's not nearly big enough. You know what I'm saying? That's the problem here.
Disgusting. We have more from Ryan. He says, here are some funny Creed pictures I posted to the Morning Combat Reddit community page. There's me in my own prison right there. That looks like the final scene of Blair Witch Project, doesn't it? That's great.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh, well, it's too late now. Too late.
Oh, the hot dog in the pocket is.
Oh, God. When you are with me. Yes. Look at that Human Clay cover with LT.
These are pretty good, actually.
These are
well done.
Good. Luke, this Creed thing started as a joke, and it makes Alan W. very upset. I want to set the record on that. But have you come around like I have to go from nostalgic joke to, you know what? I still need a little Creed in my life day to day.
No, I'm not brain damaged.
All right. Luke hates white people. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
I don't hate white people. Most of the guys I listen to on my fucking music are white, but like, I don't understand why people like. It's the same thing with Sweet Caroline. You don't actually like that song. You just like to sing it when you're drunk, which is the same thing as Creed. It's not actually good, and it's not actually good. But when you're drunk, it's kind of a silly thing to do. Just say that rather than being like, Creed is back. No.
Well, here's the thing. If you came of age while Creed was hot.
I was in high school when Creed was popular,
here's the asterisk. And you grew up in an absolute dirtbag factory town and didn't know better, then Creed might be the soundtrack of your lowest years. And that's the truth, Luke.
I was living in an apartment in Marietta, Georgia when fucking Creed hit it big. It wasn't like I was living up on the big time, bro. They suck ass, and people who like them suck ass, and you can suck my ass. How about that?
Wow. If we got Scott Stapp on the show, would you give in for that?
Would you do a threesome with him like Kid Rock did?
Really?
Oh, my friend. I have a new Google search for you. Scott Stapp Kid Rock threesome. Yeah, have fun with that one.
I only know about that time Scott Stapp got drunk in the lobby of a hotel and started crossing the line with the members of 311 and talking bad about their wives, and then they all beat him up. That's a great story. Nick,
actually, I didn't know that one. That's like even better. Omaha style. He'll put these fucking knuckles on you, huh?
That'll close out our fan segments for the day. Reminder.
No, we got
one
more video. We got.
I'm sorry, one more from an unknown sender. Thank you for the reminder. Here's our final fan sub of the week. Live fellatio.
Suck it, bitches!
Okay.
Roll the dice a little bit, Luke, right? You know,
Dude,
I mean, it's just...
we got to talk about the two ways this story really gets
fucking jack off in everyone's face, and it's completely legal.
Luke, should that be our new intro for Friday shows?
Yes, that is the official Friday intro. I don't give a shit what anybody says. That's the best thing I've ever seen. That is
Long
amazing.
Island Luke. What if we play that every Friday leading into DMs and fan subs? What about that?
I'm cool with it if you know, MS
powers
is
that
cool
be.
with it. Yeah, then
we should give that to Jake and let him remix it a little bit.
Yeah,
and then turn that into the thing.
That's put actual dicks in it. Probably not. Yeah, there you go. All right. Luke, final question related to 311, not the band. Do you think the Fires in LA could potentially move the event next Saturday out of the Intuit Dome and away from that area?
I'm being told by people who live there that they're not very close. Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about the LA area or exactly how the fires are spreading to have any informed commentary.
Wasn't that in Inglewood, which is in the flat section near the airport, near the water, as opposed to the hills where the fire?
Yeah, that's my basic understanding. But what I'm told is that the venue is pretty far away from the fires.
Okay.
So
okay, interesting stuff. Final reminder: they're our great partner, DraftKings Sportsbook, and that it's NFL Wild Card Weekend. Yeah, we're talking about playoffs. So just a reminder here that to download the DraftKings Sportsbook today, use that app, use our code Kombat with a K, and new customers can put $5 down and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. So Luke, we talked about the big matchups, the Washington Commanders there in a close matchup. A reminder that all lines are subject to change, all betting lines, but we've got some banger matchups there. Go Commanders this weekend. Maybe our fans should put a little cheddar on your team. What about that?
I hope. The problem is I don't even know if I can stay up and watch the game because I have to get up at the ball sack crack of dawn on Monday to get up and go to New York. And I don't really want to do the show on 4 hours of sleep. So we'll see how that goes.
All right. All betting lines and odds are subject to change. But as of right now, your Commanders going to go in there at Tampa Bay +3 on that spread, Luke. +145 on the money line. Interesting stuff over there in Washington. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. $5, our code Kombat with a K, $200 in bonus bets. Please bet responsibly. And remember, the crown is yours. LT, any final messages here as we head into the first fight weekend for UFC of the new year?
No, I'll be doing a post or I'll be doing a watch along for, I think, most of the main card. Not because it's a great card, but just because it's the first one, just to kind of ring in the new year. And then we'll have a great Monday show, and then we'll set everything up for next weekend's UFC 311. Should be great.
Yeah, we may have a big surprise next week. We'll see. Okay, we'll see.
Yeah, maybe we'll see.
We'll see what's happening. Long Island Luke, the main card minute, going to be hot and ready this Saturday or what?
Actually, I got plans this weekend, so I will not be live. But I do have. Luke's shocked, but Luke, everyone can tune into your watch along now.
That's right.
But I do have bet breakdowns out, guys. You can go check those out. And yeah, thank you very much.
There, get some main card minute merch there at the website as well. I got this fantastic koozie over here. You don't see Luke Thomas wearing a main card minute koozie at all. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
He gave me one. I think I threw it in the trash.
I bet you did on the way out. Remember when Appy gave you that really expensive wine bottle from France and you were like, yeah, fuck that guy.
Well, I mean,
I love David.
Who knows what he did with that shit? You know what I'm saying?
He may have been at Epstein Island at one point, but David Appleton's a good soul underneath it all. All right, that's the show for this week, folks. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the fights. Follow us on our social channels there that you can see our YouTube channels, and like and subscribe. It does help us go a long way. We're on the road to not just saving this show, but saving your soul one episode at a time. Take care. brush your hair. Until then, that's LT on BC. That's Long Island Luke, and we are out of here.